Caleb has to convince me of this. Bank on it, he says. Dylan Samson will be a Heisman candidate. Wowzers. Caleb, do you really think that?
Dylan Samson is one of the, and guys, nobody's eating more crow than me about this, okay, because I did not think he'd be able to be the starter because of his pass pro. But Dylan Samson, according to certain advanced metrics, is the SEC's highest graded running back so far this year. Now, funny enough, Deshaun Bishop is second, but Dylan Samson has played against real competition more often than Deshaun Bishop has. But Dylan Samson is the highest graded running back by far. He is one of the top 10 rushers in touchdowns and in total yards, and running backs still make a run for the Heisman. If Tennessee stays committed to this run game and teams stay committed to taking away the deep ball against Nico the way they have been so far, because they're still so scared of what Hendon Hooker did in 2022, Dylan Samson is going to be in New York at the end of the year. I mean, there's no question about it.
Okay, I got a couple of issues with that, and I am a Heisman voter, so hit that like and subscribe on it. Hit that like and subscribe. It's Bank on It, brought to you by Commercial Bank. And I'm going to tell you why Dylan Samson will not be in New York, will not be a true Heisman candidate, although I think Caleb is onto something, and he doesn't often admit he's wrong, which is pretty strong. Okay, I'll tell you what, 30 seconds, Commercial Bank.
Commercial Bank is your neighborhood bank. What makes us different from other banks? We understand that every customer has unique opportunities, challenges, and financial concerns. We don't expect you to fit into the same box as the next person or business. Whether it's purchasing a home, saving for your child's future, or planning for your next vacation, we're with you every step of the way to navigate life's big decisions. Commercial Bank. Life made better.
Okay, Caleb, here's reason number one that Dylan Samson can't be a Heisman Trophy candidate, because a lot of Heisman voters are lazy. They're going to think this is Nico, even if Dylan Samson is a bigger impact player this season. That's number one. Number two, it has become a quarterback award. It used to be a running back award, but now it's a quarterback award. And I think you would probably agree with that. The last 7 have been quarterbacks. So he'll be overshadowed by Nico. He doesn't play a position that often garners more attention for the award. So, Caleb, what do you make of those two arguments? And then I've got a third that has to do with a certain guy named Payton that I'm going to share with you here in just a moment.
All right, so I'll break this down in every way. So it's more of a quarterback award for two reasons. College football has become more pass-happy, quarterback-oriented with offensive systems. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
And then the other one is that most places, similar to the NFL, running backs are by committee now, right? So they're just not going to get enough carries like they used to.
Yes.
That's not happening with Tennessee right now. I didn't see this coming. But one, Josh Heupel, as an offensive guru whose offense puts up like 40 points a game, probably relies on the run game more than any other coach, more than any other offensive system in college football. Is that also fair to say?
Yes.
Then there's also the fact that as of right now, one thing I said hasn't changed, which is I'm not sure Tennessee has another running back they feel like they can rely on to split reps with Dylan Samson. Deshaun Bishop has played well, but not against real competition. So I think Dylan Samson is going to get a disproportionate amount of carries relative to what they usually want running backs to get. All of those things thrown in together means, so he's in a more run-happy offense than most offenses. He is not a by-committee starter like most running backs. And then, so that automatically adds where you would think a running back gets 10 to 12 carries. I think in many big games, Dylan Samson could end up finding himself getting 20 to 25 carries. But then the other part about this that's huge is, guys, you all have watched the games that I have. Ever since Hendon Hooker in 2022, it seems like every team Tennessee has played has said, we are not going to let the deep ball beat us. We're going to make them work the field. They are willing to let those running backs get 7, 8, 9 yards a play. They don't want to get beat over the top. I mean, I'm noticing that more and more every time Tennessee plays somebody. There's a commitment from defenses to not get beat over the top, which is what the entire passing offense is based off of. So, and Heupel has shown, to his credit, he doesn't get impatient. If you're not going to let him beat you over the top, he will run it and run it and run it down your throat if he has to.
Okay, so I get that. And the offensive line I think, should be an argument on your side too, because I think they can push people around. And I don't think Josh Heupel's had a full offensive line. He's had guys that can push people around, but this team can really push people around. All right, message board, tell me if this makes you mad at me, okay, if you want to. But I think there's a Payton factor. And you thought I was going to say Peyton Manning, right? No,
yes.
It's Payton Lewis. I think he is too special to not ascend and take some of the carries at some point in the season and be the number 2 back and get some first team reps as well. So it sounds like I'm ripping on Deshaun Bishop, who I'm not ripping on the walk on. Everybody loves the walk on. Okay. But hit like and subscribe if you think Payton Lewis is going to be a factor in a game this year, because I do. And I think it's just going to take some time. I see his ascension being much similar to Jamal Lewis's. Not saying he's as good, and not saying any of that, any comparison, but I think he's in that realm. And if he can handle pass pro and you have an off week after Oklahoma and you feel comfortable, I'm not saying that Payton Lewis is going to take over for Dylan Samson, but I could see times in short yardage where you really like his power. I could see times when you want to batter people, you take Sampson out of the game. In other words, I believe at some point in October, we'll be talking about Dylan Samson and Payton Lewis as being tailbacks 1 and 2. And therefore, when you look at the two, no offense against Sampson, but Payton Lewis is a monster. You're going to say physically that guy is better. So those that do pay attention to Tennessee, they're going to say, well, Sampson may not even be the best running back on the team.
Yes, but Dave, I think a lot of times with the way this offense works, Josh Heupel doesn't like to change personnel mid-season. And we saw this 2 years ago. 2 years ago, look, after watching last year, it's as clear as day that Jalen Wright was always better than Jabari Small, right? But
yes. I think Jabari Small was the ultimate. I'm doing everything right, but physically I'm an average football player, and I don't mean that as a knock.
I don't either. I have a lot of respect for what he did. I'll except for the fact that he made a short-sighted decision. He should have come back this year because he still would have been the feature back. My thing with
he didn't have good guidance. May I just share something?
Yeah, sure.
He was going to be a part of Off the Hook Sports, and the Vol Report had extensive conversations with the family, and then just kind of fell off the map. And I think that likely he signed the contract from Spire, and if you don't tell them that you don't want exclusivity in that contract, they'll do that. So I don't think he had good guidance, and honestly, I empathize/sympathize for him in his plight at Tennessee, because if he's back this year, he is playing a part. He's a part of an incredible backfield now that we know what Sampson's done.
And this is Dave why he went nuclear on Spire Sports, because he realized they were preying on athletes more than they were supporting them. And so, yeah. Okay, so back to the point of 2022, though. Jalen Wright was hurt during fall camp, kind of had a fumble issue because he was getting back healthy early on in the year. He was better by October, but Jabari Small stayed the starter the whole year because it was just a rhythm thing. So even if what you're saying is true, that may reduce Dylan Samson's carries, but I still think Dylan Samson is going to stay the number 1 back all year. Now, where that bolsters your argument is, I'm thinking Dylan Samson could rack up so many early September stats that he stays the Heisman frontrunner, but you have told me 1,000 times over, and you are right on this, you don't win the Heisman in September, you just lose the Heisman in September. And so it's not, so even if that's all true, Dylan Samson would have to have some big game in some moment in November, i.e. against Georgia, where he would go off, and then people say, okay, he's got to be in New York for the Heisman ceremony. That's going to be tricky if he's splitting reps with Payton Lewis. But again, when you're the all-purpose back, you know this, Dave, from the Reggie Bush days. I'm not saying Dylan Samson's Reggie Bush, but I am saying that there's a lot of different ways you can touch the ball and rack up stats. And Reggie Bush won the Heisman not because of any stats, because he pushed his quarterback into the end zone for a play against Notre Dame.
Very true. All right. Go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button. Join us. Tell me what you think. Let's take a look at the message board for un momento. Sampson sitting behind small. Derek says, I don't think so. Shaking my head. I knew that last year. Yeah, I think Sampson was a pretty special player, and his teammates knew it as well. I do think in the middle of the season last year, pass pro was an issue. And probably the bowl game a little bit, but I don't want to dive into that because he's playing incredibly well now. So kudos to him. Now, I think my one argument you would have trouble overcoming is Nico's pretty special. I mean, if anybody's going to win a Heisman in Tennessee, it's probably going to be Nico, right?
Yes, Nico is still my Heisman pick. I put money on him to win the Heisman, but it's going to be hard for him. And again, Dave, I kind of empathize if you're a quarterback who chooses to play for Tennessee right now because it's supposed to be quarterback friendly. But look at what defenses are doing. Am I just seeing things, or are they really just committed to making sure they don't get beat over the top?
You're not seeing things. That's exactly 110% right. And I love the fact that Josh Heupel isn't getting frustrated over it at all. It's almost like he's taking a little CBD that you can get from the Hemp House, the premier hemp dispensary online with a wide variety, great selection, and strict standards to only ensure you receive the best in CBD or Delta products. Hemp House Chat with 2Ts.com, Hemp House Chat with 2Ts.com. Use the promo code HOOK for 10% off, the promo code HOOK for 10% off. It must be hard for Josh Heupel not to throw the deep ball as often because defenses are dropping back. I mean, that's his greatest weapon. It would be like if I didn't have these golden tones.